Hey guys, and welcome back to Life with Stasia. We're back in my kitchen bringing vegan goodness your way. And today I'm going to be showing you guys how to make my version of Taco Bell's Crunchwrap. They're super delicious, and we are going to be pairing ours with a cilantro cream sauce, which is to die for. Basically, you could also take any of the components of this, the refried beans and the cream sauce, and make them into something different if you don't feel like making the Crunchwrap. But if you do make it, you will love it, I promise. Without further ado, let's get cooking. The very first thing you're going to want to do is get some cashews soaking. I've had these cashews soaking overnight. This is 1 cup of cashews, and I just soaked them in some regular tap water overnight. We're going to be draining them and making these our cream sauce anyways. If you don't have time to soak them overnight, soaking them in some boiling water for about 30 minutes to an hour will do the trick. They'll be nice and soft enough to blend up. After we have our cashews soaking, we're going to move on to chopping up all of our veggies for this recipe. We're going to chop up some lettuce. I'm using romaine. I think Taco Bell technically uses iceberg lettuce. I'm just not really a big fan of iceberg lettuce, so I'm going to be using romaine. I'm going to chop up 1 jalapeno. The jalapeno is optional. If you don't like super spicy things, you could completely omit it, and if you want things to be spicier, you could add more of it if you'd like. Half of an onion and some tomatoes. I'm going to be using small cherry tomatoes, but you could use any type you want since we're going to be chopping them into small bites anyways.
Since I had decided to use romaine lettuce, I decided to cut about half of that center white portion out of the lettuce to keep it not quite as bulky in the actual Crunchwrap, and then I cut the rest of it into small pieces. In Taco Bell's version of the Crunchwrap, or the original version of the Crunchwrap, the tomatoes in pretty tiny pieces, so I decided to do the same. I diced up 1 whole jalapeno, half of which is for refried beans. The other half is going to go in our cream sauce. Since I'm not generally good with spicy food, I decided to remove the majority of the seeds, although this ended up not being a very spicy jalapeno, and I kind of wish I would have left more seeds in.
After we have all of our veggies chopped, I'm going to move my lettuce and tomato to our refrigerator just until we're ready to actually assemble our Crunchwraps. And I'm going to move on to starting our refried beans. I'm going to saute that half of an onion and half of the jalapeno that we chopped up. After our onion and jalapeno have picked up some color, I'm going to add 2 cans of drained, rinsed pinto beans. I'm choosing to use pinto beans just because I'm trying to kind of stick close to what Taco Bell makes, and they use pinto beans in theirs. After the beans have heated up in the pan for a few minutes, I'm going to add my spice mixture. My spice mixture is 1½ teaspoons of nutritional yeast, 3/4 teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of ground pepper, half a teaspoon of ground garlic, and 1/4 teaspoon of cumin. Now that our bean mixture has completely heated up, we're going to transfer it to our food processor to blend it up. You could also use a potato masher or the back of a fork if you don't have a food processor. They just may not be as smooth, but that's absolutely no problem.
I added 3 tablespoons of water to our bean mixture and then pulsed it in the food processor for a few seconds at a time. I continued to add water in tablespoon to tablespoon-and-a-half increments until I got a consistency that I liked.
To make our cilantro cream sauce, we're going to saute the other half of the jalapeno in a pan with a little bit of oil. jalapeno cooked, we can move on to completing the rest of our cilantro cream sauce. We're just going to throw everything in the blender. It is the easiest thing ever.
To my blender, I added our 1 cup of soaked cashews along with 1 cup of water. I first blended that for a few minutes so that everything could get really smooth. I then added half a teaspoon of salt, 1/4 of a teaspoon of garlic, our cooked jalapeños, and 1 1/2 cup of cilantro. If you get a few stems in there, it's totally okay.
Now that all the components for our Crunchwrap are ready, we can move to assembling the Crunchwrap, which I'm very excited to do so. You will need giant tortillas. Basically, the largest tortillas you can find are what you're going to need. And since the Crunchwrap does have that thin, crunchy corn tortilla layer in the middle, I'm not the biggest fan of frying things, so I decided to purchase. They do sell pre-made, like crispy corn tortillas. I think that they're for, the 4 tostadas, that we are going to be using them for our Crunchwraps today. So let's start assembling.
Although these were the biggest tortillas I could find, they weren't quite big enough to cover my corn tortilla, so I filled the gap by cutting out a circle from another tortilla. I then started to assemble my Crunchwrap. I first put a layer of our refried beans, then our crunchy corn tortilla, some romaine lettuce, and some tomatoes to top it all off. I then added my filler tortilla to the top and began to fold the larger tortilla in towards the center, holding down each edge as I went. I then placed it folded side down in a large saucepan over a medium-high heat and cooked it on either side until it was golden brown.
Vegan Crunchwrap, how epic does that look? I don't have like a pretty way to put the sauce on it, so it's kind of just slopped on there unfortunately, but it tastes amazing, so it is worth it. That is so much better than Taco Bell. Oh, it's so much better than Taco Bell, yet has all the things you love about a Crunchwrap in it. The beans are so much more flavorful. The tomato and lettuce give like this really great fresh kick. And that cilantro sauce would be good on literally anything. You could put that on a shoe and it would make it taste amazing. Thank you all so much for watching this video. If you recreate this, please tag me on Instagram. I would absolutely love to see your guys' versions of these Crunchwraps. Please do not forget to like, subscribe, leave me a comment. I would love to hear what you guys thought. And until next time.